am going to enlist the help of everyone in the room. Could everyone please tap the person next to them if they're still talking? And could you let the people around you know that we're sitting down as my little helpers today? Thank you so much. Well, welcome back. It's been a while since I've spoken to you. I hope you've already had a wonderful start to the morning. I hope while you were chatting you got to catch as well, we just had on the screen our She Hoops video to support basketball and women in basketball. Of course, we've got exciting news with the basketball. Lauren Jackson is coming back for another season, which is very exciting news. And that's a great initiative as well with Basketball Australia and Basketball Victoria. So the topic on today, and I hope some of the conversations that you are starting at your tables and maybe just even in your mind as well, is all about, once again, what women want. And really trying to understand that from different perspectives as well. We're all different, we're all individuals, we all want and need something different, depending on what age we are, depending on what role we're at, depending on what we wish for ourselves and what we're hoping for the future, and maybe for future generations too. What we want, for all of us in the room, is going to differ. So with that filter in mind, we've got a fantastic panel that we're about to invite up onto the stage who are able to really look at this question from multiple perspectives and be able to bring something to the conversation that I hope will resonate with everyone in the room. Now we have an incredible facilitator who will be leading this conversation today. She's steering our ship and will do it unbelievably. It's Rana Hussain, who is the founder and director of Good Human. She's a speaker, presenter and writer. She has worked with a number of AFL clubs, Cricket Victoria, and is also on a number of sports boards and committees. She is the captain of our ship, and I would love to invite her up onto the stage right now. Joining Rana up on the stage and for this exciting conversation are some of our guest panellists. So I would love to also welcome up to join Rana now, Associate Professor Dr. Camilla Brock from Victoria University, Susie Betts, CEO and founder of Boob Armour, Sarah Walls, CEO and founder of NetFit Netball, and Olivia McCannon, who is the National Marketing and Brand Manager of Decuba. Please put your hands together for our panel guests today. Once again, we're hoping this to be a rich and exciting conversation. Please feel free to take some photos, pop it up on social media. I always like to have my notes open during this time and jot down some points that are interesting and exciting to me, because on such a big morning like this, sometimes we forget the things that are in our minds, and we do encourage that. And I would like to now hand it over to the wonderful Rana.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Did you network good? Did you find someone that you've never met before? Put your hand up if you had a conversation with someone that you've never spoken to before. Oh, very brave, wonderful people. Good for you. Well, we've started well. That's good. That's what we want. I'm just going to name that I'm very intimidated right now. The four of you, I have to say, in our prep Zoom yesterday, I just went, oh, okay, we're going to be here for a while, I think, so maybe get another coffee. There was a lot of conversations, and this will be amazing. What do women want? I mean, it's a great movie, but let's also talk about it through the lens of... Did everybody else think that when they saw the title of this brunch? That's where my head went. Camilla, I'm going to start with you. We're going to get really philosophical and put our academic hats on for a second. You've done a lot of research in this space in terms of athletes and high performance sport and what athletes need in particular. You've described the sports system as patriarchal, which I don't think many people in this room would disagree with necessarily. But can you unpack that a little bit for us? What are the kind of constructs that have made the system what it is for women?
Sure, thank you, Rana. And again, lovely to be here, and this is just, a bigger audience than I would normally have for an academic meeting, so it's wonderful to be here, thank you. Just to give you a bit of context on my insights and perspectives, my career has kind of been a career of two halves. I have had the first half of my career working in high-performance sports, so working in industry, and the focus had largely been in high-performance sport and looking at systems and ways to improve support services for elite athletes, and that was some work time that I had at the AIS. And then I moved back into academic research, and really through my colleagues and the research that I've done, I came to realise that some of the systems that we were looking at to improve for athletes, there wasn't a one-size-fits-all. Predominantly I had been looking with just a very generic athlete lens on how to better support athletes. And it was through my research that I came to realise that really there are quite a few system design faults in the current system. And and I do have a few notes here because I wanted to make sure that I
Ever the academic.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yes. So, so what are some of those system design faults? Well, aside from probably the obvious being funding and the significant funding and pay disparity between men and women athletes and in sport. And we know that obviously funding is a key driver for access to participation and of course for high performance sporting success as well. But funding aside, and we'll obviously go into funding a bit further, but a couple of other system design faults are around body image and player comfort. And we know that the playing attire and the sporting uniforms that suitable for boys and men are not necessarily suitable for women and girls. So there's been some really huge advances in that space and changing policy and women are being heard and girls heard as to what they would like to wear and VU have done some great research in that space. I think accessibility to facilities and infrastructure is another area of key design fault, but it is improving. So it's considerations around change room facilities and having appropriate family caring spaces and also your childcare access as well. So there's in recent years obviously lots happening in that space, and we're moving from just retrofitting facilities and club rooms to actually embedding gender inclusive design practices in facilities, and also thinking about things like functional flow of facilities, line of sight and things like that for athletes. And then there's safety and well-being of women athletes is a huge area and an area that I'm really quite passionate about. There's obviously, for women athletes, they have general, life stresses, that are social and psychological and also biological. They also have sport-related stresses, so that, competition, for selection, injury, worrying about performance, those sorts of stresses. But we know that women and women athletes and their mental health, women report higher mental health issues. They, have lower mental well-being. Women athletes are twice as likely as men athletes to experience depressive symptoms and have higher rates of anxiety and higher rates of eating disorders. So, these are just some of the, key areas. Women are also 60% more likely to experience body shaming pressures from coaches. So Victoria University, we were really quite keen to understand what some of those, gender-specific stresses would be, and, just again, probably going to be no surprise to many of you, but some of those key gender-related issues that women are facing relate to parenting responsibilities, consideration of pregnancy and pregnancy planning, returning to sport stresses. So obviously fewer leadership opportunities for women in sport and in media. And we also know that women have greater exposure to psychological and physical and sexual harassment and violence in sport, wage disparities, obviously, that I talked about, and sexualisation. So, there's a lot. All right, so there is insufficient knowledge at the moment about the impact of gender-specific stresses for women athletes. So there's so much more work to be done.
Thank you for that. That was incredible and a very depressing list, to be honest. And a lot of that's not new to the people in this room, and what we're sort of talking about is the fact that the system has been designed not with women in mind, that clearly that so much of what you just listed there is what women need. It's just kind of the baseline level of what we need. But I want to hear from the rest of you. You know, about 6 weeks ago, it felt like we were in this kind of feminist fever dream of Barbie and Matildas, and Taylor tickets were on sale, and it just felt like the world was for women. And I don't know about you, but I was, you know, jumpers above my head and just beaming and felt like the world had changed. Do you feel like we are where we think we are? Are we doing as well as we think we are?
I think it's been a pretty amazing year for women. I have to say that and agree that groundswell and that feeling of community. And as someone who's probably sitting here a little bit outside of the sporting realm, sort of through the lens of fashion retail and at Tacuba we talk about making women look and feel amazing, and I think that feel is so critical to everything that we do. So yeah, we feel it, and I think the feeling that sport has brought over this last 12 months, but probably, let's say 10 years, you know, watching the AFLW do incredible things and just all the wonder that it's bringing from sitting sort of maybe slightly on the outside of that, we're feeling it. So it's been a brilliant year.
Olivia, we heard a lot of research then from an academic perspective. You do a lot of research from a market perspective. Yes. You head up brand and marketing at Tacuba. What kind of research do you do in terms of what women want?
Well, so much. So we really like to think about all marketing as a two-way conversation. So we don't ever want to think of women as a homogenous bunch of people. They have different needs, they have different wants, they have different desires. So I think it's as simple sometimes, and we can put all the fantastic research that we do into it, but it's also just about thinking about that customer at the end of everything we're doing. So I will often say to my team, okay, we're sending in an email at 5 o'clock. What does that mean? What are they doing? Are they picking up their children from school? Are they finishing a senior leadership meeting? Are they doing both? Are they heading out for dinner tonight? Are they going to training? Are they working their second job? All of those things might be true for one woman. So I think that within the research that we do and the conversations that we have, we try to keep that very open, whether that's via our social media pages and keeping that open. We do a lot of surveys. We do a lot of that very in-depth research, but it's also just thinking about what we already know and always catering back to that thinking.
And you sort of touched on it then, but do women want the same things?
Absolutely not. So I think that when we think about it from a market and brand perspective, women don't want the same things. And we know that within the audience we have, and we're very lucky to have quite a loyal fan base, they will tell us very, very clearly what they're after. And that is the constant change that we are. We've just we've got another sub-brand, Deluxe, and we've just released activewear, for example, because we were told, we trust this brand, we love what you guys are doing, and we can see, as we just discussed, that groundswell, and we're seeing more women feel more confident to get into that space, and they trust our brand. So we have an opportunity then to service their needs. So no, the answer is they definitely don't all want the same thing, but it's our job to bring, what they do want and keep bringing it to them and keep asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. I love that. I'm really mindful that we're using the terminology women and girls, and in the context of this conversation, we really do want to drill down on that, but also understanding that that's whoever identifies as a woman or a girl. Susie, you're a beautiful example of a business that went, there's a gap, we're going to ask what women need, I can see that women need something, and I'm going to go after that. Tell us a bit about Boob Armour.
So it really stemmed from a personal journey. Now, we're talking boobs, people, so I'm just going to start at the beginning. So, and how it did start, I found lumps in my right breast, and when I went to my breast cancer surgeon, the first thing she asked me was, had I ever received a trauma? Which I thought was a really strange question at the time. I then, through imaging, they found lumps in my left breast. I had to have biopsies and ended up having surgery. And the question really stuck with me, what sort of trauma? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, did you play sport? And I'm like, yeah, I played sport. I played tennis, I played netball. I didn't play at a high level, but I was pretty good at school, I must say. I'm not being vain or anything.
It still counts, right? It still counts.
Anyway, I really became obsessed with that whole idea because she's like, if your boobs were protected, that wouldn't happen. I was like, okay. So I came home to my daughters, who both played football and basketball at the time, and I said, do you get hit in the boobs? And they're like, oh, stupid question, Mum. Of course we do. So then I went, okay, what research is there? What can we find of what's been done, and what are the injuries that happen? Because as a surgeon said, it was sort of like fleeting. So having a mum who had been the head of the Melbourne University Physio School, I said, Mum, find me the research. So Mum got on her computer, and as she did, she's found everything that there had been at the time, and it was really limited in that time. It was basically from the US college system, which showed that girls were receiving injuries. Now, that was quite significant. It was more than half of those that had been surveyed, and I thought, this is just ridiculous. So thank God in 2020 there had been some research done here as well that actually involved AFL and rugby, and same thing, girls were getting injured. I think it was 62%. They were wearing bras, but they weren't wearing any form of protection. I then went looking around, look, what protection is there? And there had been things done for rugby. There was a beautiful French, well, I thought it looked great, but it wasn't that functional. Like a vest that had some, I always call it puff pastry. I mean to say puff foaming or whatever, injection foaming. And yeah, it looked great, but what we found in our research too was that everything had been compressing the breasts, and you really needed to encapsulate them in the shape. Everything that had been made before, and I'm sorry guys, by men who really think we are Barbie with two perfect boobs that are the same size and at the same level, and they really weren't functionable. They were in a t-shirt size, not a cup size. So I knew we needed to create something that treated each breast as an individual. In 1975, there'd been research that said any girl playing sport should have breast protection. Nothing had been done. In 1991, another study where they tested 4 different materials for the best barrier between force impact and the breast, and it was polyethylene. So I knew that I needed to create something that absorbed the impact. I knew that I didn't want to take on Nike or Under Armour or any of those guys too, so I just wanted to do the inserts, and I really wanted to complement what was there, which is what we manufactured in the end. They are in 7 sizes. My daughters are obsessed with them. We've got 3,000 girls wearing them now globally. We're in Rebel Sport. It's been a bloody hard slog. Everyone asks me, what's the medical research behind that? Now, when the cricket box was invented, you guys... You wouldn't have even thought about playing cricket without it. You wouldn't even care what the medical research was. But all I get asked is that. We've also got, 62% of girls getting injuries in sport. Now, that's a high number. Imagine if that was your teeth. 62% of people getting their teeth knocked out. So we've got to put it in perspective. We really need the support. My goal is to make it mandate. People think I'm an idiot, but bad luck. I'm really, really going to try and make it mandate in sport.
Well, I want to ask you, it blows my mind that research was out in the early 70s, yet, we're still not really getting it right. You're that example of you can see a problem and you're going to do something about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and any advice you have for the rest of us who are seeing problems everywhere?
Well, you just got to become obsessed like I did. So I'm a very passionate person, and when I started, it was really only to protect my own daughters. I didn't think any further than that. I then thought about, one sport being AFLW. I didn't think any further than that. And then during COVID, when I sat there, bored, I really realised it was every sport. Anywhere where there's contact, impact or a ball. You've got, lacrosse. You've got guys wearing motorbike outfits nearly, and girls wearing a pair of goggles. Cricket, you'd think that there would be breast protection. There's not. Apparently the injuries are mostly in fielding too, which surprised me. We've got girls in Australia who box, who don't even wear any, breast protection. And they're not interested in wearing it. So we want to start that habit at grassroots level. We want to make, any girl playing soccer, you put your shin guards in, your breast... why can't I even remember my own product name? Your impact protection and your mouth guard. You can't play football without a mouth guard. The Australian Dental Association say you shouldn't play with one that's the mouldable one because that's a choking hazard, but no one cares about that because they know they have to play and they know they need to wear that to play. So my advice is go for it.
Go for it. There you go. You heard it here first. Sarah, I'm going to bring you in now. You are also one of these women who speaks directly to women, knows what they want. You've established a wildly successful movement in NetFit. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's 12-year baby of mine now. I've got my little 1-year-old out there doing circles of the oval, but it was hard to think I'd put my attention anywhere else, to be honest. And as Susie said, you have to be obsessed, and I am, with the actual purpose of what we do. So for those that haven't heard of NetFit, we're now an activation digital agency in netball, but if you really pull all that back, we work with grassroots netball and community and what the clubs and schools are really wanting. And it all came about, I was playing for the Vixens, not the greatest elite player, I did everything I could to play at the top, but I just had this other passion and love for kids and getting out there and working with people. And we'd go out and we'd have signing days. And as you know, netball is a mass audience, 1.2 million girls in this country and more men in playing now. But we would go with these signing days, and I was like, we can't get to every kid, and I can't actually teach them how to do a roll-off. So what are we doing here? And I'm like, we want to get them to the games. And we weren't actually getting that foot traffic to the games back then. And I'm like, well, hang on, I'm looking at these 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and they're like, they actually don't want to play elite sport. So what do they want? And how are we going to help them? And what are we going to do to keep them involved? And how can we still be, I guess, that role model of that healthy message back to them and not have them having to jump on YouTube and look at American girls telling them how to eat? So I thought, right, we should start this netball gym class. And it was a couple of months after that, I was up at the AIS and I heard Sarah Walsh talk. I've never met Sarah, and I heard her speak last year, and she spoke passionately about, after she left the Matildas, she wanted to go and help wellbeing for her elite players that she played with, and she was getting knockback after knockback, and so she wrote her own job description and told them how she was going to do it and how they were going to fund it, and just took it in to Football Australia, and she got the job. And I went home, I'm like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Like, why aren't I doing that? So uncannily, like, we've got this what women want. I went home and I designed this whole portfolio, what women want. I went into Netball Australia and I'm like, I've got this idea. We should do this lifestyle brand. We don't have to talk about our games, we'll sneak that in, but we'll talk about what smoothies we're drinking and what are our pre-game meals and home workouts and those sort of things. And the CEO at the time was like, fantastic, I love it, you're onto something, go and make it happen. So that's what we did. I've got Claire Oliver, one of my best mates and colleague, but we started out on the road 12 years ago, and we went around and we went to clubs and they were telling us, Sarah, you should be videoing this and we need this, and then it just snowballed into what it is today.
What I love about your story is that you really tuned in to what women were saying and what their needs were. And Susie, your story is very similar. And I'm fascinated by the fact that, and we see this in media too, you know, a lot of the service around women's sport is from freelance and from outside the mainstream system, entrepreneurs, or even kind of industries that are completely separate from sport. Is that the way forward? Is that how we're going to get actually what we need?
Yeah. Do you know what? It was an eye-opener once I really got myself out of my elite netballer head and got onto the ground and were like, these girls love that it's a 45-minute netball gym class. They're having fun with their friends. No one's looking at them. They're doing their own thing. And they left training, and that was just a product. I also really identify we need to entertain our community. Netballers, like, as we know, everyone has different needs and everyone has different desires, but we have one core message where we all love the game, so we can all speak about that love and passion and bring everyone together on that. And once you create a community, you create a movement. And then for other sports in the room, that's the ability to sell products. And I think we need to look through the lens of entrepreneurial about how we also then, I guess, monetize that, which then comes up and then we can all be paying these elite athletes. But until I think that grassroots area is completely nailed, it's going to be like a complete lean on commercial partners to really fund the top end constantly.
Olivia, I love that. You know, how do we embrace you know what I'm saying? You get it. How do we embrace that in kind of a big system?
Well, at Tacuba we have the Tacuba Foundation, and that is something that we're incredibly passionate about. And that is exactly what we do. We have 5 core pillars, and we look at incredibly different organisations and how we support and make women and girls look and feel amazing. And I think that there's 2 parts of that. There's definitely sponsorship and the monetisation and the very real commercial realities that we need to face. But there's also the sharing of expertise. There's also mentorship. So I just loved the conversation earlier about being bold, being brave, having the conversation and just sharing, you know, even to be honest, me being here today, I'm really coming from an outside lens, but I have learned so much by all of these incredible people that have spoken to me today. So I think that if we can constantly see things through a lens of sharing information, having really open conversations and really asking for what we need, because as we're saying, this isn't one group of women asking for one thing. It's really about how we amplify the need across the board.
I'll be honest, the merch that I bought during the FIFA Women's World Cup was the Colette handbag and earrings. Like, I didn't go for the scarves or the beanies or the jumpers. So there are women like me who want stuff like that. What can sport learn from the fashion industry and to Cuba?
Exactly that. So I think that it's actually how you can have a little bit of fun with it as well. So I think that, yeah, as I was saying, there's some very commercial and very serious realities, and some of the amazing research that we've just discussed. There are some very serious topics that we do need to confront, but it is so fun. Sport is so fun. Being part of a community is so fun. So how do we continue, again, to share that expertise across industry and have really cohesive, excited conversations and think about different ways to do things? I mean, Barbie is another fantastic example of that. You know, Mattel essentially gave up their licensing and just said, go for it, and here we are. And it's never been more prominent or more exciting, and we are just seeing that proliferation everywhere. So I do think it is about sharing expertise, having really quality conversations and leaning into each other as well. But yeah, it can just be fun, and that's fine.
I want to pick on this idea of sharing expertise and working together and collaboratively. And this is a little bit of a curly question, but you're in a safe space. Women love to work together, and we love the idea of a sisterhood, but we don't often, we can sometimes find ourselves without it. Are we as good as we think we are at supporting each other? Who wants to tackle that one?
It would be great if the answer was yes. I've found a lot of resistance from women in supporting, you know, my growth and, you know, my challenges, which has been sort of surprising because we've all got boobs. So to protect them, I would have thought it would have been a no-brainer to be really supportive.
I want to come to you, Dr. Camilla, on this, because we talk about women, and we've unpacked the fact that women don't all want the same things, but women are very, very diverse as well. And when we think about women supporting women, how well are we doing in terms of supporting all women?
How well are we doing? Of course, we could do better. Of course, we could do better. But I think again, the power of sport. To be able to support all women from from a real intersectional lens and diverse, culturally diverse and linguistically diverse backgrounds. I know that some work that I'm doing with the Western Bulldogs Community Foundation, and we have an opportunity that they run Sons of the West and Daughters of the West. The Daughters of the West program, through that program, it's a community health-based program, health education and physical activity. But through the Bulldogs, so through the brand of football, through the brand of elite sport, the Community Foundation is able to engage with many facets of the community. And the Daughters of the West program in particular, and the program that we've been looking at, is trying to bring that program and have more access to women from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And, you know, just some of the programs that we've been able to run with East African women, with Vietnamese women, they love this program, and they love it because we have engaged them right from the outset. Instead of the one-size-fits-all, we're going to consult community, ask them what they would like, find out what the barriers are for their participation in programs like this, create a safe space to have fun, to have that sense of belonging, and the program's thriving.
Sarah?
Yeah, I think and everyone's in the position sitting there knowing how many no's they've got or roadblocks from other women, and we've had so many. But whenever I get down about it or think, oh gosh, or like I refer back to who does support us, I think it's really important to flip and always make a positive, because when we did really focus on those people and that growth, slowly but surely we grew. And I think there's still so much so many people out there really knowing their roles. I think it's really important, wherever we are, is to know what we do, and then maybe the collaboration becomes more clear of who they can bring in, or that less threatening feeling of someone going to come and take your job, or whatever that may be. So I think the biggest thing I've learnt from 1,000 no's, and anyone that has a startup or anyone that's going to do a new program or start something new, just be prepared for 1,000,000 no's, and it's okay. It really has to be. But then if you're in a position of leadership or power, or you're up and coming and you're just about to take a CEO role, remember when you were in that position yourself. And then even if it is a no, what are the steps that you've got to do to change and adapt so that you can be the answer? I think that was some really great conversations that have helped me. It's like, yeah, it is a no, but here's why, and maybe do this and revisit it in a year's time.
I'm so glad you mentioned leadership then. We know that so much of the decision making happens in closed rooms with people who maybe aren't as connected to community or don't have the perspective that we need to design the system so they work for everybody. How do we shift those mindsets? Give me the answer. I really need it.
And do you know another thing that and this is Dee said, Sarah, speak openly, but I think we've also, no matter what government organisation we've partnered, which has been some incredible ones, there's certain, like, this age to this age, we need to market to this. And, like, there's certain barriers around that decisions are being made, but I think there's a lot of people that are on the ground that are kind of like, oh, that doesn't really fit into this. So there's funding being put in areas that could be used in other areas on the masses. I think, if that makes sense. Currently we're working with Sport New Zealand at the moment on a project called It's My Move, and they came to us and they said, oh, we need to work in this particular area. We love your audience because it's so diverse in New Zealand, and we need you to do a project between this and this. And we actually pitched back to them and said, we run clinics at this and this age, so it's not that adolescent girl, but we speak to this 10,000 young women between the age of 7 and 12. Can we shift that message to them? Because they need to hear it too, and they did. And it was amazing. We had a total shift from them. They needed to hear that information. We gave them a whole reason why in our research and our audience and our customer segmentation of what we know about our people, and they jumped to it.
All right, well, the time has come. I want you each to tell me, what do you think it is that women want? Go for it, Susie.
They want to be included, they want to be seen, and I think they want to be empowered and to live their lives with confidence.
What she said, but I think that recognition, is important, and the recognition of that we are not one. We are, that some of, different experiences, different needs, different wants. So again, that intersectionality, making sure that we think about that in all of our policies and practices.
What they both said. And I think for me it's being heard but also understood. Yeah, brilliant. I probably have nothing else to bring to the table, but I'd say to feel safe. I think if we have that as a common and thread of everything we do, and we can build on that, and I think to be entertained and have a laugh, and that brings a fire, and that's what we all were with the Matildas, and I'm forever grateful to them because they use that platform to help us all now lift up. So I think from now on, I think we've got to just take the reins and go for it.
Girls just want to have fun, don't they?
You.
I can't believe I'm going to say it because none of you said it. We want funding. Don't we want funding? We just want funding. Great, good, bags and bags of money. Thank you. That's what I'm asking for. Give it up for this wonderful panel. Thank you so much.